Yes, student, let us continue with our law of evidence lecture. Now we were talking about the person who were charged for robbery. These guys, is it robbery or car hijacking? Because they hijacked a taxi from Wentworth to Pinetown. The taxi was destined for Durban, from Wentworth to Durban, and these guys, three of them, got into the taxi. When they were in the taxi, one sat next to the driver and then pointed a gun at the driver and said, "Driver, don't go to town. You go to Pinetown." And they drove. Away from town. They went past a place called Chesterville, and at Chesterville they picked one guy. This guy was an expert with trackers. He was very good in removing trackers or identifying an area where a tracker might be fitted in a vehicle. So they called him. They went to him. They called him, and he was waiting for them on the road. And he then jumped into the taxi and went with these hijackers. They went to a secluded place around Pinetown in some kind of a bush, and so that they could not they could not be reported, they then decided to take all the cellular phones from their captives, right, from the people that they have, the passengers in the vehicle. So they took their phones, and one guy was threatening to rape the women, but he did not. He was stopped by the guy whom they picked on the way, the guy who was an expert in removing the tracker devices. So women were not raped, but they were threatened with rape. Okay, and then everything was done. Then the ladies were allowed to go to take a walk, right? But everything had been taken. Their wallets, their phones, they had been robbed basically, and they were allowed to go. These guys were found. Durban has got cameras, so especially the guy who was sitting in the front could be identified by cameras, and they were found. Okay, they were all, especially where they pick up that guy, there's a camera there. If you go to Durban, if you go from a road called, it was called Booth Road before. It's a road that goes to Westville Prison. There's a camera there at that intersection. That's where they picked up this guy. So he could be seen jumping into the vehicle. Right, so they were arrested. And when they were arrested, now the prosecutor had to prefer charges. So what charges do you think the prosecutor was supposed to prefer to these guys? The first one would be kidnapping, right? And the other one would be possession of unlicensed firearm, right? If you've proven that the firearm was unlicensed, obviously with tax, firearms are always unlicensed. And also, now be careful. You see, when you're dealing with the unlicensed firearm, you cannot say a firearm that has its serial numbers filed off. You can, if somebody was found with that firearm, you cannot charge that person with the possession of an unlicensed firearm, right? Why? Because you don't know. You will only know if you know the serial number of the firearm, if it is licensed or not, because somebody can take a firearm from his brother and use it. That firearm is licensed, but not on his name, right? Not on his name. Okay, that firearm belongs to somebody else, but it is licensed, so you can't say unlicensed firearm. So, and now it's difficult to determine a firearm which has its serial numbers filed off. to determine whether it is licensed or not. So you cannot charge them for an unlicensed firearm. Okay, you can charge them under the Arms and Ammunition Act, yeah, of 2000, if I'm not mistaken. You can charge them under that act. All right. Now, okay, so you can charge them for that. You can also charge these people with kidnapping, because in the process of their robbery or hijacking, they kidnapped people. They took people under their captivity, and people were restrained. They could not be, they could not freely go to wherever they like that. So that is kidnapping. And you can charge them for so many things. If ammunition was found, or there was there was shots fired, to threaten them in the bush, you charge them for possession of ammunition as well. And you can also charge them as well for theft of motor vehicle, because in the process of that hijacking, theft of motor vehicle, because we don't know, maybe they wanted the vehicle to sell the parts of the vehicle, right? It was a combi, a taxi with 15 people. So now here comes the problem. How are you going to charge? How many counts are you going to charge these people for? You are going to charge them if you say the taxi was laden with 15 people. So that means 15 individuals were hijacked, robbed, and there's also an attempted rape, because this other guy was threatening to rape them, right? You can charge them for that, but now it's not all of them. It could be one person who did that. Then you can charge that person with the attempted rape. But be aware of common purpose as well, that persons can be convicted on a charge on the basis of common purpose, right? Okay, now so these guys will be charged individually for all these crimes, which means if they are convicted, for instance, in this case, these people were given about 120 years in prison, because the court counted the years in respect of each individual who was involved in this. So these people were they were convicted and sentenced to 120 years, I suppose. Yeah, 120 years, because there were too many people involved in this crime. So you need to be very careful when you are preferring charges. Look at all those dynamics, right? And on the issue of kidnapping as well, you see, if a person commits murder and a person comes to your house, and then you are taken away from your house and taken to be killed somewhere, or even when you are killed in your house and then you are taken from where you were shot and maybe hidden in another room, that amounts to kidnapping, because you were taken against your will to another room where you were hidden, or to another place where that is kidnapping, because it is now up to the state to prove that while you were taken, you were still alive, or you were dead, right? Okay, so it is important to be able to determine the charges that you are going to prefer to an individual, right? All right, so let us then again end there, so that you can have this lesson in your WhatsApp or in your phone.